Well, that's a pretty broad-based question, but I'll try to narrow it down. I think the most important issue is to keep Verona desirable and affordable for all of the citizens of the town. That includes young families and seniors. The best way to do that is to convince people that they're getting a good bang for their bucks for the property taxes that they are paying, and also that the services that are being provided are first rate. I happen to think our service provisions are pretty good here. I think the public works people do a good job in terms of snow removal, maintaining the streets, and things of that nature. So I have to commend them for that. But then we have to look at the tax structure. And, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but that really is the key now to keeping the property values stable, keeping the rateables from dropping. We had a $56 million drop in rateables just from last year to this year. Not all of it due to property taxes, but certainly there's a lot to be said for maintaining a stable local government and improving the street conditions, which we've already done. So we're doing a lot, but we can do more. When I looked at the budget, there's a lot of line items in there that I think can be cut. It's not just a good idea to keep things flat. I reviewed budgets for 15 years in my prior lifetime. I know how to go into budgets and look at items that are bloated, that are just designed in there to leave excess money at the end of the year. We have to go in there and really look at those line items, really take a pencil to them. We have contract negotiations coming up with both of our unions, very critical. We have to go in there and really make it plain to them that they're going to have to give a little bit back this time at the bargaining table. And that'll go a long way towards helping our property taxes to get stable. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Roman?
Thank you. My concerns are also financial. Our town manager used the term financial icebergs to describe what we're facing in coming years. The world is changing around us and we're not changing with it. The situation with healthcare is changing very, very rapidly. We have increasing debt service costs. We have a lot of costs that are coming our way. And they're going to be very large drivers of our budget. And one of the things we found, even with the budget caps, there are a lot of things that are excluded from the budget cap that can still drive up our property taxes. When I look at property taxes and home values, what's your home worth? It's worth what someone can pay for it. And when someone needs to qualify to be able to purchase a home, that includes the cost of the property taxes that it comes with. So for preserving the value of the residents' homes and our biggest assets, that is one of my large concerns, is actually our tax rate. Likewise, I share some concerns about the budget. I do feel that there are a lot of things in there that we can look at things that are in fact padded, at things that are in fact inefficient and sort of older ways to operate. One of my largest concerns is overtime. I feel that we overspend a lot there. I think that that's an area where we can get a lot more efficient without affecting public services. I think our public services are excellent. We have very dedicated town employees. We have an outstanding police department. We have great snow removal, great public works. And we don't want to affect that. We don't want to take anything away from the citizens, but we want to look at each of these things and say, is this the most efficient, the most economical way to get this job done? I think that that's going to have a long-term positive effect for everyone in the community if we can ensure that their houses are affordable. I purchased mine 8 years ago, and my goal is this is my long-term place where I want to live. I'd like to eventually retire here, hopefully, and I want to make sure that my property taxes don't grow faster than my income does, which I think is the situation that we've had for a lot of people for a very long time. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. DeOld?
Again, I'm going to go back to my basic platform, and that is dock for the taxpayer, because I think that our tax rate has just gone up at an exorbitant rate. Right in the middle of the recession, it didn't cease. They just kept spending, spending, spending. Well, if you're spending and you want to get a flat tax rate, how are you going to improve this situation in town? Well, you're going to have to make some cuts. And I'm going to just give you an example of something that came up at one of our town council meetings, if you didn't catch it on VTV. The Judge Paparazzo, came in and he gave his spiel about, this his budget and how much it is. And when he got down, he said, he says, I was able to do everything I needed to do, and I had 6,000, or he said 5,500. I checked his figures. It was actually $6,500 over what he needed. So that was in from his 2012 budget. I looked at the 2013 budget. Just this one line. We only decreased his line item by $341 when he had an excess of $6,500. You want to know how you lower your tax rate? You don't give them so much to spend. And then you have all this extra money that we are providing, okay, that we are paying our taxes for so that we reach this level that we need. This is, to me, the biggest problem, and I will work tirelessly to get them first to at least, my goal would be to get a flat tax rate. And after that, I would take it and say, okay, now what can we do to possibly reduce taxes? We should have, in the future, some extra income coming from the hilltop, and I'd like to see that being applied to tax relief. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Schwartz?
Thank you. When I was walking while I was campaigning, I was asking residents as I knocked on their doors, what did they see as a major issue in Verona? And I'm happy to say that everybody was happy. There were a few people that were concerned about their taxes, and I believe that my colleagues up here on the table have covered that pretty well. But I think that there's another issue, and that's the issue of communication between government and the town's residents. We need a strong council. We don't need a gatekeeper for the council. We need more communication between council members and the residents one-on-one. Information needs to be more accessible to residents. There should be little or no need for an Oprah request for a town of this size for citizens to get information. And if a request is made, that information should be available immediately or in a timely manner, not gone for attorney review. Information that the council requests is also delayed to the point where it's difficult for the council to make votes with carefully considering all the aspects because they only have a couple of days before voting happens. A couple of examples of this is when the Environmental Commission needed information about the proposed athletic fields, the ones that we just bonded for. The information was kept from that Environmental Commission for months. It turned out that there was nothing wrong with it, and there was no reason why that information was held back. I think what we need to do, thank you, I think what we need to do is not only have regular council meetings, but have, like many towns do, conference meetings, where the town manager advises the council on what's going on. They're public, they're open, but the council members sit down in more of a brainstorming session, an open forum, so people can see what's actually behind what the decisions they made. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Williamson?
I would say taxes is probably the biggest thing facing us today. Nobody wants to pay tax. If I were to say, give me a raise your hand if you were okay with your tax bill, very few people would raise their hands. If I were to say, raise your hand if you were willing to have something cut that you enjoy in this town, the same amount of people would raise their hand. Okay, so finding that fine line between what's acceptable as a tax and what do we want to give up or what do we want to keep, that's a tough decision you have to make, right? People in Verona want everything. And everything costs money today, costs are higher. So what we have to do is continually talk to residents. What do you want, what you don't want? Sharing information always is a great idea. I mean, you can never have enough information, whether it's from the council, whether it's from the different boards, and that's gotten better, but it can always be better. And we have to constantly strive to keep that.